Imagine a world without coffee. Challenging, isn't it? But where did this beloved beverage originate? The story takes us back to the lush landscapes of Ethiopia, where legend tells us a curious goat herder named Kaldi noticed his goats prancing about energetically after munching on red berries from a certain tree. Intrigued, Kaldi tasted the berries himself and found they had the same invigorating effect. Word about these magic berries quickly spread, marking the discovery of what we now know as coffee. From these humble beginnings, the cultivation of coffee spread like wildfire. It journeyed across the Red Sea to Yemen, where Sufi monks brewed it into a drink to stay awake during their night prayers. From there, it traveled to the bustling coffee houses of the Middle East, known as khanes, which served as social hubs and platforms for performers. It wasn't long before the love for coffee seeped into Europe and eventually reached every corner of the globe. So from a humble beginning in Ethiopia, coffee has truly conquered the globe. Now let's dive into the first myth. Does coffee really stunt your growth? Well, let's start by saying there's absolutely no scientific evidence that supports this claim. This myth is likely an old wives' tale whispered down through generations, but it's simply not true. Perhaps this misconception found its roots in the idea that caffeine can cause sleep disturbances, and since we grow in our sleep, it might have been thought to interfere with growth. But there's no direct link between coffee and stunted growth, and caffeine's potential effects on sleep don't translate to affecting your height. In fact, moderate coffee consumption has even been linked to a decreased risk of certain diseases. So, not only does it not stunt your growth, it could actually be part of a healthy lifestyle. So, rest assured, your morning cup of joe isn't shrinking you. Moving on to the second myth, do dark roasts pack more caffeine? The answer might surprise you. Despite the robust, intense flavor of dark roasts, they don't actually contain more caffeine than their lighter counterparts. The roasting process is all about flavor, not about enhancing the caffeine content. Now, where did this myth come from? It's quite likely that the strong, bold taste of dark roasts led people to imagine they were getting an extra caffeine boost. But in reality, the caffeine content is determined by the coffee bean itself, not the roasting process. You see, caffeine is a stable compound. It doesn't simply multiply or vanish during roasting. In fact, the only thing that can substantially alter the caffeine content in your cup of coffee is the amount of coffee you use. So, if you're looking for a caffeine kick, it's all about the quantity, not the roast. So a darker roast doesn't mean a bigger caffeine kick. Next up, myth number 3. Is coffee a culprit behind acne? Let's delve into this. It's easy to point fingers at our beloved brew when a breakout occurs. But the truth is, acne is more likely to be caused by additives we put in our coffee, rather than the coffee itself. Yes, you heard it right. It's the sugar and milk we often add to our cup of joe that are more likely to mess with our hormones and lead to acne. Now there's another angle to this. Coffee is indeed a diuretic, which means it can lead to increased bathroom trips. However, this doesn't mean it dehydrates you. Dehydration is often linked with skin issues, but in terms of coffee, the diuretic effect doesn't dehydrate you if you're consuming it in moderation and staying well hydrated otherwise. So to wrap this up, coffee in itself isn't the enemy of a clear complexion. It's more about what you add to it and how you balance your overall hydration. So coffee isn't the enemy of a clear complexion. Finally, let's tackle myth number 4. Is decaf coffee flavorless? Well, this is another misconception that has been brewing for quite some time. The truth is, the flavor of coffee doesn't solely depend on its caffeine content. In fact, methods of decaffeinating coffee, such as the Swiss water process, are designed to preserve as much flavor as possible. This process uses water and osmosis to remove caffeine from the beans, leaving the coffee's natural flavors largely intact. Now, it's essential to understand that the taste of coffee is a complex interplay of factors, including the type of bean, the roast, and the brewing method. So, while decaf might taste slightly different due to the decaffeination process, it can still provide a satisfying coffee experience. So, the next time you're considering a cup of joe but want to skip the caffeine, don't shy away from decaf. It might surprise you with its depth and complexity of flavors. So, decaf doesn't mean devoid of flavor. As we wrap up our journey of debunking coffee myths, remember, not everything you hear about coffee is true. We've traversed the landscape of misconceptions, from the tall tale that coffee stunts your growth to the popular belief that dark roasts pack a bigger caffeine punch. We've busted the myth that coffee causes acne and reassured you that decaffeinated coffee doesn't have to be flavorless. Let's recap. Coffee, a beverage with a rich history and global reach, certainly doesn't stunt your growth. There's no scientific evidence to support this claim. As for the dark roasts, they might have a stronger taste, but they don't necessarily contain more caffeine. If you've been blaming your coffee for your acne, it's time to reconsider. It's more likely the additives like milk and sugar that could be causing your skin troubles. And for those of you who enjoy your coffee sans caffeine, rest easy. Decaffeinated coffee can be just as flavorful as its caffeinated counterpart, especially when produced using methods like the Swiss water process. With so many myths swirling around, it's easy to get confused. But that's why we're here, to set the record straight and ensure you enjoy your coffee without any misconceptions. If you've come across any other coffee myths that you're curious about, feel free to drop them in the comments section. We'd love to hear from you and continue this myth-busting journey together. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and check out our other videos for more myth-busting content. Until next time, keep brewing and enjoy your coffee, myth-free.